Why would someone order a Virgin Mary grotto to be sealed in the middle of the night, as if they were trying to hide something? What was inside that small stone structure turned out to be far bigger than bricks, far deeper than fear. And to this day, no one on that street has ever been able to explain it. But before we go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I want to see just how far stories like this travel. Vivian Caldwell was 52 years old. She lived alone in a modest apartment in Connecticut, worked long hours at a veterinary clinic, and had been divorced for nearly a decade. Her life wasn't dramatic. It was steady, quiet, predictable. But there was one thing that had never changed: faith. Every single night, without exception, Vivian knelt beside her bed, rosary wrapped between her fingers, whispering the same prayers her mother had once taught her. It wasn't something she questioned. It was simply part of who she was, until her body started to change. At first, it was subtle, a tiredness that didn't go away, shortness of breath after simple tasks, a heaviness that settled into her chest and refused to lift. She told herself it was stress. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, she sat in a doctor's office, listening to words she already felt coming before they were spoken. More tests, more silence, more waiting, and then the truth. The doctor explained everything carefully: the diagnosis, the treatment, the stages ahead. Vivian didn't interrupt. She didn't cry. She just listened. She saved the tears for the car. That night, alone in her apartment, something inside her shifted. She didn't sit on the bed like usual. She went to the floor, knees against the carpet, hands gripping the rosary tighter than ever before. And she made a promise. Virgin Mary, if I get through this, if I'm healed, I will leave this place. I will build you a grotto. A real one. Somewhere people can come, pray, find peace. It wasn't a casual prayer. It was the kind of promise you only make when you've reached the edge, when there is nothing left but hope. Treatment began the following week. 3 visits to the clinic every week. Long hours. Exhaustion that seeped into her bones. Days when even standing felt like effort. But she kept going. To work when she could. To appointments when she had to. And every night, she prayed. That never stopped. 6 months later, the doctor called her back in. This time, his tone was different. Vivian, the results are very good. She didn't react at first. She didn't understand. The treatment is working. The words felt unreal. In the weeks that followed, test after test confirmed it. Improvement, then stability, then something she hadn't dared to imagine. Vivian, you're in remission. She stood in the hallway after that appointment, completely still. Then later, in her car, she cried again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was relief. That night, she prayed longer than ever before. And when she finished, she whispered quietly, I didn't forget. I'm going to keep my word. 3 months later, she sold her apartment. 40 days on the market, gone. She didn't hesitate. She found a realtor and described exactly what she wanted. A house, big yard, quiet street, trees. She visited 7 properties. None of them felt right. Too small, too noisy, too broken. Then came the 9th, and everything changed. The house itself was simple. 2 bedrooms, a comfortable living room, a kitchen that worked. But the yard stopped her. Wide, open, green, a tree in the corner casting soft afternoon shade, a street that ended quietly instead of continuing into noise. The kind of place where people still greeted each other. This one, she said. The deal was closed within a week. The move was easy. She didn't own much. Clothes, a few pieces of furniture, books, and one thing she treated differently from everything else. The small statue of the Virgin Mary from her apartment. That was the first thing she placed in the new house, right in the center of the living room. The neighborhood welcomed her. Marlene and Doug on one side, retired, warm. Pamela and Craig Dunn on the other, polite, distant. A few more neighbors further down the street. It was peaceful. It felt right. 1 month later, Vivian was ready. She called a mason named Hank, a man recommended by a neighbor. Quiet, efficient, someone who spoke only when necessary. I want a grotto, she told him. Stone. Beautiful. Not too big. A place for prayer. Candles. Flowers. Hank studied the yard. I can build it. 10 days. The work began the next morning. Neighbors noticed. Some asked questions. Vivian answered simply. A promise. 10 days later, it was finished. Stone fitted carefully into an arch. A small platform. A place for candles. Simple, but beautiful. Vivian brought a larger statue this time, one she had chosen carefully. She placed it gently inside the grotto, lit a candle, stood alone in the yard, and whispered. Promise kept. At first, it was just her. 20 minutes each afternoon. Quiet prayer. Silence. Then Marlene came. Asked politely if she could pray there too. Vivian said yes. Then someone from another street. Then another. And another. Within 2 months, something unexpected happened. The grotto became known. Not loudly. Not publicly. Just quietly spreading. 5 people a week. Then 10. People came to give thanks. To ask for help. To sit in silence. A grandmother grateful for her grandson's job. A man praying for his sick wife. A young woman who spoke to no one. Just came, stood, and left. Vivian didn't organize anything. She didn't control it. She simply kept the space open. And that's when the problem began. Pamela Dunn noticed everything. At first, she stayed silent. Then came the irritation. The cars. The voices. The unfamiliar faces walking past her house. People she didn't know. People from outside the neighborhood. Her quiet street wasn't quiet anymore. This is getting out of hand, she told her husband. They're just praying, Craig said calmly. I don't care. I can't work like this. Pamela knocked on Vivian's door. She was polite. At first, I respect your faith, she said. But this activity needs to stop. Vivian listened. Calm. Understanding. I'll ask them to be quieter. I'll ask them to park further away. And she did. But it didn't change anything. Because the people kept coming. More each week. And for Pamela, every new face made it worse. A week later, she returned. More direct this time. This shouldn't be here. This is a residential street, not a place of pilgrimage. Vivian stood quietly and answered simply, I can't stop people from praying. And that's when something shifted. Not in the yard, not in the street, but inside Pamela. Because from that moment on, this was no longer about noise. Something else had begun. The grotto is on my property, Pamela. It's not hurting anyone. Vivian's voice stayed calm. Pamela didn't argue. She just turned, walked away, and slammed the gate behind her. From that moment on, everything between the two houses changed. No greetings. No eye contact. Just silence. Heavy, uncomfortable silence that spread across the street like something no one wanted to touch. Craig still waved sometimes, awkwardly, from a distance. Pamela never looked. But what was happening inside Pamela was far worse than what anyone could see outside. She stopped sleeping, lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying the same thoughts over and over. It wasn't just the noise anymore. Not the cars. Not the people. Not even the activity. It was the faces. She watched them from her window every afternoon. Strangers walking toward the grotto. Strangers leaving it. And every single one of them looked lighter when they walked away. Calmer. Relieved. Like they had left something behind. And Pamela didn't understand. Why them? Why could they believe, and she couldn't? Why could they kneel in front of a statue and walk away feeling different? Pamela had never believed in anything. No religion. No rituals. No prayers. Her world had always been simple. You fix things yourself, or you don't fix them at all. But now, at 3 a.m., lying in the dark, she kept thinking about something she couldn't explain. And the more she tried to ignore it, the stronger it became. Until one Thursday night, she made a decision. Craig, I want you to seal it. Craig froze. What? The grotto. I want it closed. Bricked up. Tonight. Craig stared at her like he didn't recognize her. Pamela, that's her property. I can't do that. The street is empty at night, she said, her voice steady, too steady. You go out, you build a wall in front of it, and it's done. And when she finds out, when everyone finds out, it won't matter, Pamela said. By then, it'll already be over. Craig didn't answer right away. He just looked at her. And in her eyes, he didn't see anger. He saw something else. Desperation. The kind that comes when someone feels like everything is slipping out of their hands. And they grab onto the only thing they think they can still control. Pam, this won't fix anything, he said quietly. Please. That one word broke him. Okay. The next day, Pamela prepared everything. Bricks. Cement. Tools. Stacked neatly in the garage like something planned, something final. Craig saw it all when he got home. Said nothing. That night, just past midnight, the street was silent. No lights. No movement. Craig stepped outside. Carried the bricks one by one across the sidewalk. Into Vivian's yard. Moonlight. No witnesses. He started building. Slowly. Awkwardly. He wasn't a mason. The lines were crooked. The cement uneven. The structure ugly. But it worked. Brick by brick. The opening disappeared. The statue vanished behind stone. The candles. The flowers. Everything. After 2 hours. It was done. Where there had been a place of prayer, there was now just a wall. Craig went back inside, covered in dust. Took a shower. Went to bed. Pamela didn't ask anything. She already knew. The next morning, Vivian stepped outside like she always did. 5 minutes before work. A candle. A prayer. Silence. She stopped. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there, staring at the sealed grotto. 2 full minutes passed. Then she walked closer, placed her hand against the bricks, ran her fingers slowly across the surface. She turned her head, looked toward Pamela's house. Closed windows. Stillness. She went back inside, sat in the kitchen, didn't cry, didn't react, just sat. Then she picked up the phone. Marlene, can you come over? Marlene arrived quickly, took one look at the grotto, and covered her mouth. My God. Vivian, who did this? Vivian didn't answer. She didn't need to. Are you calling the police? No. Marlene blinked. They came onto your property. They destroyed something you built. I know, Vivian said softly. But this isn't how I want to handle it. Word spread through the neighborhood within hours. People came, looked, reacted. Some angry, some silent. One neighbor offered to confront Craig. Vivian stopped him. Leave it. That same afternoon, something unexpected happened. Marlene knocked again. We're taking it down, she said. I already talked to the others. You don't have to, Vivian replied. We want to. They didn't wait. Within an hour, neighbors gathered, tools in hand, determined, brick by brick. They removed the wall, carefully, respectfully, until finally, the grotto was open again. The statue stood inside, covered in dust, but untouched. Marlene cleaned it. Doors swept the floor. Others adjusted the stones. Vivian stood there, watching everything. And then, she cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, as if something inside her had finally been released. But while the neighborhood tried to understand what had happened, there was something no one knew. Pamela was sick. The diagnosis had come months earlier. Before the grotto, before the people, before everything. Pain that didn't go away. Tests. Silence. Then truth. Treatment began. Appointments. Medication. Hope. That didn't grow. And then the grotto appeared. And with it, stories. Through her open window, Pamela heard everything. People giving thanks. People talking about healing. About second chances. About miracles. And she sat there, in the same house, with the same fear, with nothing changing. And something inside her began to break. She wasn't angry at the grotto. She was angry at herself. Because she wanted to believe. And didn't know how. She wanted to kneel. To ask. To hope. But something inside her wouldn't let her. So instead, she destroyed the place where others did. The treatment didn't work. The test came back worse. Pamela, we need to intensify everything, the doctor said. She nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't ask questions. 2 weeks later, everything got worse. At home, suddenly, Craig called emergency services. The ambulance arrived in 12 minutes. By the time they left, the situation was serious. At the hospital, Pamela barely spoke, just stared at the window. Silent, distant. Craig stayed beside her, day and night, holding her hand when she allowed it. Vivian found out later that evening. Pamela's in the hospital, Marlene said. It's bad. Vivian stood still for a moment. You didn't know? No, she whispered. That night, Vivian made a decision. She called the neighbors. I'm starting a novena tomorrow, she said. For Pamela. Marlene blinked. Vivian, she sealed your grotto. I know. And you're going to pray for her? Vivian's answer was simple. She needs it. A pause. And the Virgin Mary doesn't choose who she helps. The next night, 7 people came. They prayed. Together. The night after that, 9. By the 4th night, the living room was full. One evening, Craig went home briefly. Needed clothes. Needed air. As he stepped outside, he saw them. Through Vivian's window, people gathered. Praying. For his wife. He stopped on the sidewalk. Didn't move. Doug saw him. Walked closer. Craig, we're praying for her every night. Craig swallowed. Said nothing. She's going to be okay. Craig nodded. Turned. Walked away. Back to the hospital. Back to her. When he entered the room, Pamela was awake. I brought your things, he said quietly. Thank you. He sat beside her, waited, then finally said, Pamela, the neighbors, they're praying for you. She turned her head slowly, looked at him. What? Vivian. She organized a novena for you. Craig's voice was quiet, almost careful. Every night, they're praying for your healing. Pamela closed her eyes, turned her face away, and after a few seconds, the tears came. Pam, Craig whispered. I sealed her grotto. Pamela said, her voice breaking. You did it because I told you to, and she's praying for me. Craig didn't answer. He just held her hand. Sometimes there are moments when words don't help. This was one of them. The novena continued. Every night. More people. More prayers. One afternoon, Craig left the hospital for a few hours, drove slowly through the neighborhood, stopped in front of Vivian's house. He sat in the car. 5 minutes. Maybe more. Then finally, he got out, walked to the door, knocked. Vivian opened it. Saw him. Tired. Exhausted. Eyes hollow from nights without sleep. Can I come in? He asked. Of course. Craig stepped inside, stood there for a moment, then said, I need to apologize. Vivian waited. It was me, he said. I sealed the grotto. A pause. I knew it was wrong, but she asked me. Vivian nodded gently. I know, Craig. He looked at her, surprised. I knew from the first day. And even so, you're praying for her. I am. Craig looked down at his hands. They were shaking. She's not doing well, he whispered. The doctors, they're not hopeful. Silence. I don't know what to do. Vivian stepped a little closer, her voice steady. You take care of her there. We'll take care of things here. Craig nodded. And for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel alone. The 8th day, Wednesday afternoon, Pamela was lying in bed, the room quiet. Craig had just left for work. The nurse had checked on her earlier. She wasn't sleeping. Her mind wouldn't let her. And then, she felt something. A scent. Faint at first, then stronger. Roses. Clear. Fresh. Impossible. Pamela opened her eyes, looked around the room. Nothing. No flowers. No explanation. But the scent stayed. Strong. Real. 30 seconds. Maybe a minute. And then, it faded. But something remained. Her heart was beating faster. Not from fear. From something else. Peace. The kind of peace she had never felt before. Like someone was telling her, without words, that everything was going to be okay. She didn't tell anyone. The next morning, the doctor came in, looked at the tests, frowned. Pamela, I want to repeat these. She didn't react. She was used to tests. But when he came back, his expression had changed. Pamela, the results are different. Craig looked up. Different how? The doctor hesitated, then said, better. Silence. Significantly better. Pamela blinked slowly. The treatment is working. Craig looked at her. She looked at him. Neither spoke. After the doctor left, Craig whispered, the novena ends tomorrow. Pamela turned her head, looked straight at him. Go. For me. The final night. Vivian's living room was full. 20 people. Maybe more. Craig stood in the corner. Uncertain. Quiet. For the first time, he prayed. He didn't know the words. Didn't follow perfectly. But he tried. Head down. Eyes closed. When it ended, Vivian spoke softly. Now, it's in the Virgin Mary's hands. The days after, the improvement continued. Slow. Steady. Pamela, if this continues, we'll discharge you soon. 7 days later, she went home. Let's go, she said quietly. The drive was silent. But when they turned onto their street, Pamela spoke. Stop here. In front of Vivian's house. Craig stopped the car. Pamela stepped out slowly. Weak. Careful. Walked to the door. Knocked. Vivian opened it. Pamela, it's good to see you. Pamela took a breath. I came to ask for forgiveness. Silence. I'm ashamed, she said. You prayed for me after everything I did. Vivian's voice was soft. I prayed because you needed it. That's what faith is for. Pamela's eyes filled with tears. I saw those people coming to your grotto, talking about miracles, healing, hope. And I didn't understand. I couldn't believe. And the more I saw it, the angrier I became. Not at you. At myself. Her voice trembled. I wanted to believe. I just didn't know how. A pause. And then, I felt something. That night. And the tests changed the next day. The doctors can't explain it. But I know. She heard. She heard all of you. Vivian reached out. Held her hands. They stood there together, silent. Then Pamela asked, "Can I go to the grotto? I don't know how to pray, but I want to start." Vivian smiled. "That's exactly what it's for." The first visit. That afternoon, Pamela stood in front of the grotto, the same one she had hidden behind bricks, the same one the neighbors had restored. She looked at the statue, silent. "It's simple," Vivian said gently. "You just talk. You don't need perfect words. Just truth." The change. Days turned into weeks. Pamela kept going. Every afternoon. 10 minutes. Sometimes 20. The treatments continued. The tests kept improving. But the real change was happening inside her. Slowly, quietly, until one day, everything was different. She opened the curtains, went outside, spoke to neighbors. The same woman who once hid from the world was now part of it. And the grotto remained. People kept coming. 5, 6, sometimes more. Not for noise, not for spectacle, but for something they couldn't explain. One afternoon, Pamela knocked on Vivian's door. "I brought flowers." They walked together to the grotto. Pamela placed them carefully, lit a candle. Vivian stood behind her, watching. The same woman who once sealed it was now taking care of it. And that's when you realize something. Sometimes the miracle isn't just the healing. Sometimes it's the moment someone finally learns how to believe.